Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Marcus
and Shira,
and we're here with Deidre, also known as Slay This Debt.
Yes.
And
hey, y'all.
We're just going to be, having some good conversations and just talking about finance. This is something we all love. All three of us love to do. So we're just going to just have some fun and have some good conversations.
Awesome. So, I'm really excited to be here to talk to y'all. Y'all are such an inspiration. I'm just so proud of all the amazing things that y'all are doing in the community and just in your life. The real estate company that y'all just started, the podcast. I'm just so proud of y'all and excited. So I have just pressing questions. I know that the audience probably wants to know. So let's just jump into it.
Yes.
Let's talk about your real estate investments and your strategy for retirement, early retirement. Are y'all trying to retire early, or let's talk about that a little bit?
The goal is definitely to retire early. I know to be done with work.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but we looked into, Shira presented the real estate idea, just doing some research on her own. She presented to me when we were still trying to pay off our debts. And, we were looking at people that were saying, hey, they were going 100% real estate and buying rental properties and holding them and, having the renter pay them off for them and then using that as the source of their retirement. So I really liked that. I was like, that sounds good. So I kind of went into it after she gave me that idea. I was like, well, let's just do that. But Shira, being as wise as she is, well, let's just do that some, and then let's just get in the market as well. So that's currently our strategy.
Yeah, that's certainly our strategy to, have money in the market and have our rental properties. And so, yes, Marcus shared, we started doing our research while we were in the process of getting out of debt. And so when we finally got out of debt, we kind of already had a plan in place as to how we would move forward with acquiring our first property.
Awesome. So it's amazing that y'all were already thinking about that, even though y'all were in debt. And by the way, if y'all are new to their story, they paid off their mortgage, which is amazing. And it was a mortgage in California. Is that correct?
Yeah. We live in California. We live in Northern California. We have a condo. And so we were able to purchase it kind of when the real estate market was tanking, it was going down. So we got it at a pretty good price, and we felt that we were, able to just take it on and pay it off.
That is awesome. So where did that concept come from? What made y'all decide hey, I think we should pay off this house?
Yeah. So as we've shared, in other videos, we kind of hit a tough financial spot where we had more than we had money. And we just were in this really difficult place financially. And it was in that tough spot that we really started to devise a plan as to, what are we going to do? And a part of that plan was I would re-enter the workforce. Marcus ended up finding a new job that paid a little bit more money. He started tapping into his talents and started using his abilities to do some side hustles to make some more money. And when we started to make more money, we knew that we needed to be wiser and we needed to make better decisions. And so when I returned to the workforce, we had this extra income and we started to talk about what we were going to do with it. It's are we going to buy a car? Are we going to move into a bigger house? But it was, let's take on this debt and let's just knock it out. And so that's just kind of how the conversation started. Right. Deidre, can you share a little bit about your journey to debt freedom and just talk about all of the wonderful things that you have going on?
Oh my goodness. Well, for me, we kind of stumbled upon our debt-free journey. I got out of the military. I was pregnant with our fourth child. It was a complete surprise. And I remember going to check to see how much daycare was going to be. They wanted $1,600. And I was like, okay, no, this is too much. So I got out of the military and our behaviors didn't change. So I was still going to Starbucks and all that good stuff. And long story short, I ended up kind of stumbling upon Dave Ramsey. We ended up getting out of debt, and we did that by my husband pretty much increased his income, or our income increased. And we ended up paying off over $80,000 in 24 months. And it was a lot of side hustles. My husband worked security for the Super Bowl and for the Masters, which is a popular golf tournament in Augusta, Georgia. He did a lot of security jobs at like colleges. And then I started my YouTube channel. I also did a few things on Fiverr and just did little things here and there, but it all added up. And so in the end, we ended up paying off over $80,000. And then after that, it just kind of, I don't know, everything kind of snowballed, but the opposite way. So we ended up purchasing a house and we got a good deal on it. My husband ended up getting orders, so we ended up moving. And within 7 days, we had a renter, which was just amazing. So we purchased that house, the property value increased, and it just catapulted our financial journey. And additionally, my husband did get promoted. So he went from enlisted to officer. And then, of course, my YouTube channel picked up a little bit. So it's just been snowballing ever since. We've officially been debt-free for 2 years now. And when I look back at the things that we were able to accomplish, it's just amazing. But I tell people all the time that it's not all about just getting out of debt or living so frugal, like, you know, just penny pinching here and there. You have to, at some point, you have to increase your income. So,
yeah.
I think that's good too. That, like Shira said, with us, the increase came first. We knew we needed to increase. That was the first thing we realized. And then after that, that's when we said, okay, but let's be smart with it. So it is a kind of you need both of those to do it. So that's a great story. I know we spoke off air. You guys are looking to do more rentals or get more rentals?
Absolutely. And so originally the plan was, because we were following Dave Ramsey's, baby steps, we wanted to pay off the house. And so we were just throwing everything at the mortgage. And I was starting to look and kind of crunch the numbers, and it just wasn't making sense. Like, for us, we plan backwards. So we decide what we want the end goal to be. We decide what we want our life to look like, and then we plan to make that happen. Well, the numbers just weren't adding up. So instead of paying off our house, now we have decided to go ahead on and pick up another rental property. It's just something about, we are very blessed that we have, renters that are paying and all that kind of stuff, because you do hear horror stories, but it's something about getting that check every month and watching that the property value go up, watching your net worth go up. It's just, I can't explain it. I can't explain it. And so because of that, I want another property. Yeah. So that's the goal right now. We're just saving up aggressively to get another property.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. And congratulations to y'all too, because I know y'all just bought another property.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got the second one. We invested actually out of state. So the first one, we live in California. The first one we bought in Greensboro. And we got a renter in there. It was about maybe 10 days, 14 days.
It was quick.
Awesome.
Very quick. So the second one, we did that in March of 2018. And we got the second property in October of 2018. And,
that's awesome.
That one posed a little
challenge.
Yeah, a little bit of a challenge.
To purchase property like in fall, in winter.
So that's one thing we learned.
Yeah, a lot of times families aren't moving in the dead of, fall or winter. So we did have to make a mortgage payment.
Right. Yeah, that took a couple months to get a renter.
A renter, but we finally have someone, so we're certainly happy about that. But I like how when you were sharing in your story about how you have been flexible in your plans, and making sure that you are, working or talking with your husband to make the best decisions, for you and your family, even if it's, unconventional or it doesn't follow, the advice of a particular person. So I think that that's great.
Yeah, it was really, really hard to get out of that Dave Ramsey rut that I was in. It was like, I would see the numbers and I knew that what we wanted to do made sense, but I just couldn't get over that hump. And it seems like as soon as I stepped away from that, things just started to flourish, because really based off of Dave Ramsey's advice, we were not supposed to even purchase that property because my husband is active duty military. So just going against the grain, it actually worked out in our favor. So
yeah, when it comes to finance, what we like to stress is that there's no one size fits all. And there's, you know, lots of money gurus, and a lot of times if you read their books, a lot of times their thoughts on things conflict. So like you have Dave Ramsey, then you have someone like Robert Kiyosaki, total opposite ends of the spectrum, you know, but there's like good takeaways that we're able to take from people and just take, you know, what you need. And I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, we went through that same thing because when we got the first house, the goal was, okay, we're going to just pay this off. And then Shara started saying, you know what?
I'm not paying this off.
It's the same thing as you. Like, wait.
Somebody else to do it.
Yeah, let's let somebody else do it. Yeah. And really, it's very little money out of our pocket.
Right.
And we could just do it again. We could do it as many times as we want to. So I think that's good that you were flexible. We struggle with that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so what I like that y'all talked about was like the second time that you purchased the house. I remember in your video, you said that the second time you kind of felt like you knew what you were looking for and everything. And so I was wondering, what were some of the things that you learned with the purchase of the second home? Like, what are at least 2 or 3 things that you learned?
Yeah, so I would say, well, one thing is we financed it differently. So for the second property, we did conventional like loan. So we saved 20%. Whereas the first property, we used a HELOC. So we chose a different method of financing the second property. So that had a learning curve. But another thing that we learned is be careful to purchase a property in the winter or when it's cold, you know, because people are less likely to move. But another thing is, you know, when you're purchasing properties, you have to be in a financial position to handle the responsibility that comes with it. So, you know, we took on this property with knowing that we might have to make a mortgage payment, and we're in a financial position to be able to afford it. It's not ideal, it's not recommended, but it didn't pose a hardship. And what else did we learn?
You know what I learned or what we both learned, it's important to study your market because I know now that to go with a 3-bed, 2-bath, and that is kind of an industry standard. You hear a lot of people say, because with the second property, we went with a 3-bed, 1-bath. And I was like, well, let's do 3 bedrooms. You know, we good.
Yeah.
That too kind of posed a bit of a challenge with trying to find a renter, because your average American would like 2 bedrooms, especially if you're going to have 2 bathrooms, excuse me, especially if you're going to have 3 bedrooms. So I think 3.2 is a good minimum to have, you know, or 3.1.5.
Well, yeah.
But it depends. You may be in a niche where 2-1s are selling or renting out really good. So it all depends. But yeah, that's why I think it's important to study your market.
Yeah, I think that it might have contributed to the property taking a while to find a renter. But at the end of the day, everybody needs a place to live.
Yeah.
And so you got to live somewhere. If it's the 1 bathroom, you're just going to have to make it work. So, but yeah, I think that certainly contributed to it taking a while before we found someone.
That's interesting, because we have a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, and I don't think we went into it as smart as we will the next property. But I was scared, like, you know, rent is high. Our rent is high. It's about $2,000 a month. And I don't know, I think we really lucked up with the location, because it's like in walking distance from like Starbucks, and there's a Chick-fil-A close by, and the schools are amazing. But we would never purchase a rental home that big ever again. Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head with the studying the market and everything like that.
So it's always, like you said, it's always room to learn. And then just the process was a little simpler, because we had the team, as I like to call it. We had more relationship. Yeah, we had built relationships with our real estate agent, with property manager. So that made things a little smoother. So, you know, that helped too on the second property. But I know you guys, so Deidre, do you guys manage your own property?
Yes, I manage my own property, only because the property is considered, I don't want to say an A property, but I think I would consider it an A property. there's not a whole lot of things that needed to be done. I did originally have a property manager, and I was having to manage the property manager.
Mm-hmm.
So now I just manage it myself. It's so much easier that way. However, if we were to get stationed overseas, then I would probably hire a property manager.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So do you think you'll get your third property in the same area, the North Carolina, Greensboro?
It's a possibility.
You know what? This is high.
Y'all seem to really like that area.
Yeah, I like it, but you know what, DJ? A little birdie told me about Montgomery, Alabama. But you know what? While we have you here, DJ, the reason why I heard Montgomery was good because there's 2 Air Force bases in the area. Now, me and Shara have conflicting views on the Air Force Base area. Do those usually produce renters, or are people so in and out that it's hard to get a renter?
I would say renters. I would say military base, you're going to have, or post renters, definitely. I mean, people do purchase, but mostly, especially in that Alabama area, I would definitely say renters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one we kind of have on our radar. But Greensboro is just really good. It's been
nice.
good for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking about getting one in Killeen because we're getting ready to go to Fort Hood, and it's hard for us to find anywhere to rent right now. Like if we wanted to rent, it's hard to find someplace to rent. So there's a need for nice housing. So
yeah, how did you get into the meal prep thing, and how has it simplified your life?
Okay, you guys, I am passionate about meal prepping. So what ended up happening was, so now I work from home. But I feel like there was a point where I was spending so much time cooking, cleaning, like doing all that housework, all that, and it was kind of rolling. It was kind of like conflicting with the time that I needed to do the work that I needed to get done. So the more time that I have to do these passion projects and to, make money, the more money that we're going to make, right? So I just decided one day, like, okay, I'm going to cook for the week, and that's going to, free up some time. And it worked like a charm. Like my kitchen stayed clean. We didn't eat out as much. I was spending more time at the house instead of going to the grocery store for like onesies and twosies. And I mean, when I say my grocery budget cut, like, I wouldn't say in half, probably about 35 to 40%, because I was spending less time at the grocery stores and less. And when I say food budget, not just grocery budget, but food budget, we weren't eating out as much either, because there was like that guilt factor. Like, you have all this cooked food at home. Why do you really want to, eat Chick-fil-A? I mention Chick-fil-A a lot because that's like my favorite fast food. But yeah, so now what we do, I mean, we get really excited about it. I mean, we're passionate about it. We get like, it's lit in this house on Sundays. So we call it meal prep Sundays.
Okay.
Like
Nice.
That's actually what we were doing earlier. Curry chicken, rice, pan-seared thighs, salmon. Like we cook stuff that we're excited to eat.
Right.
So yes, I've saved a lot of money, a lot of time, less dishes, less electricity. So
now, Deidre, let me ask you this, because this is the thing that always scares me. So day 5, are you tired of the meal? Is the meal not tasting the same? I mean, how does that work?
No, so we cook a variety of things, and then normally I'll do like one freezer meal, or I'll have like convenience foods on hand just in case. So right now, our favorite convenience food is Trader Joe's chicken fried rice and their orange chicken. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but if you ever go to Trader Joe's, just try it. It tastes legit like Chinese food that you just went and purchased.
Gotcha.
So after all the food is gone, then I'll turn to either a freezer meal or like a convenience meal or something like that. But yeah, day 5 still tastes amazing. Like still, yes. We've been doing this now for a while. We've not had any complaints.
Got you.
Nice. So were you able to continue to cook some of the same meals that you cooked before you started meal prepping, or have the meal selection kind of changed?
Yeah, I would say so. So right now, because it kind of like you have your ebbs and flows, and you'll have your things that you eat, and then you may get tired of preparing that meal, so then you try some different things. So right now, my husband and my kids are really into like nachos and like tacos, and then they turn that into something called like a taco ring. It's just amazing. We just find innovative ways to just keep it fresh and all that kind of stuff. Now, there are certain meals that I don't like to eat because we ate a lot of it when we were on our debt-free journey, like spaghetti. I'm done. Or pasta salad. I can't even. But now, like, that we're doing like steaks and salmon and pan-seared tilapia, it's amazing. So, and also we ended up going to a restaurant one day and we spent a lot of money. We went to Bonefish Grill. I don't know if they have those where y'all are. We spent a lot of money and I was so disappointed. I was like, never again, never again, never again. So some of my favorite like restaurant items, I just Google how to make it, or I'll YouTube it or Pinterest it. And so now I'm making like dupes of the things that I was spending a lot of money on. So
nice. Yeah. Did you ever post any of your recipes?
Not recipes because, okay, so my husband laughs at me, right? I am not good with like measurements. I always tell him that like when it comes to seasoning food, I just wait for my ancestors to be like, that's enough.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop. So I don't feel like, I can't tell people like how much salt or how much pepper to put on something because I don't ever measure. But I do have videos on my YouTube channel of me cooking and preparing foods though. So that's about the best I can do.
Yeah. I hear you.
What about y'all? Do you cook all the time or do you meal prep or what do you do? Because I know, Shira, are you a nutritionist or a dietitian?
I have my bachelor's degree in dietetics.
Okay.
So I work and I work in that field.
Okay.
But I don't like advise anyone on their nutrition, though I could, and I have the education to be able to assist in that area. But we're not doing meal planning right now. I mean, we plan our meals, but I'm not hardcore. I'm sure I could probably look into that.
Right. We definitely could clean it up a little. Yeah. We've gotten better recently, just with the whole, just trying to simplify things. We buy our groceries for the week on Sunday, and then we kind of know, okay, we're gonna have a meal that will take us through 2 days of the week, and then after that we make meal number 2, and that'll finish out the week. And so we kind of have that plan. But I'm interested in the idea of just, all right, we just gonna throw down on Sunday, and then we have it ready. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. I had a question for you, one that gets posed to us quite often, or every now and again it'll come up, and they'll ask, what should a person do when they want to get better with their money, but they're having a hard time convincing their spouse or having the conversations about that with their spouse. How would you answer that, or how would you handle that?
Well, the first thing that I normally tell people, because this comes up a lot, like on my platform too, but first of all, you can't like go into the conversation with negativity, like positive vibes only. And then to set the example, like just start doing what you can do. So if you're a home economist or a stay-at-home mom, start trying to prepare your meals, start trying to cut back and all that kind of stuff. And then actually do the research to understand the numbers, understand where you are, so that when you do sit down to have the conversation with them, you have your facts in front of you. So just being prepared. Also setting the mood for the conversation. Like you don't want to have a conversation with your spouse when he's in a bad mood, or I keep saying he, I guess it could be opposite ways, but like just knowing when to have the conversation and having the right setting and having your heart in the right place. Now, if you have this conversation with them and they're just not having it, they just don't, they don't want to hear about it or whatever, you can do some other things. You can maybe, ask if y'all can listen to podcasts together. Just start small. Listen to financial podcasts. Let's listen to an audiobook together. Let's read a book together. If they're not hearing that, they don't want to do that. You might need to have a different conversation about, your wants and needs, or you might even, I also talk about having just a dream meeting. Like, let's dream together. What is the end goal? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? What do you want to do when you retire? And then once you start to have that dream meeting, okay, now let's work backwards, but slowly. Like, you don't want to start saying like, okay, well, you need to be on a budget. Like, let's ease into this. Now, you said you want to retire at 45. Did you know it's possible to retire at 40? This is is how we can do this. So those are my little tips.
Those are great.
I do tell people that for some relationships, there are other issues going on, and those issues need to be handled before you can move into a conversation about finances.
Right.
And oftentimes counseling might be an option. I hate to bring that up, but I mean, it's the reality.
Yeah. No, that's good. And just speaking to a lot of what you were saying, I think with us, it started with an idea from Shire. Like I always like to say, she kind of put the bug in my ear. And although I wasn't like super against it, I kind of didn't want to hear it at first, like, oh, okay, well, I know we need to get things together, but she handled it well because she would just like, drop little hints, and we didn't press it. And then after a while, you start wanting to do what's best. If your spouse feels that this is something important, then a light bulb will start to go off in your head, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, So I think a lot of that advice really does work. Like,
absolutely,
I'm a testament to that. So yeah, I think that's really
awesome. It's interesting because I was the one who kind of got my husband on board. I'm blessed that he really didn't care either way. And it's just because of the way he grew up. He was born in Trinidad, raised in Trinidad, and had very humble beginnings. But after I showed him the numbers and he just saw how excited I was about it and like how passionate I was about it, then he just got on board. So I was lucky. I was blessed. But yes, for some people, it's not that way. So for some people, the husband might be okay with getting on board about like getting out of debt. But then when you start talking about like investing or paying off the mortgage, that's when the issues start to come up.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, me and Shire, we're pretty lockstep, in most of our finance.
Yeah.
But we still, have to have conversations. Oh, well, I thought we could do it this way, and no, so it's always there's always conversations going on.
Yeah. So my brain is always churning. So we'll talk about something. We'll be like, look, this is the plan, and then I think I got a better plan. So I'm like, look, I got another idea. Right. But, thankfully, Marcus, he tolerates me. And if it makes sense, then, he's usually on board. And I think that's a good thing because, when you're married, you want to be concerned about the things that your spouse is concerned with and vice versa, So it has worked. Yeah. And our communication around finances have improved tremendously. Yeah. And so one of the first things that I did after getting out of debt was I went back to school. And I went through a program, a coaching program. So I completed a certification through UC Davis, which is a prominent university here in California. And so we've used some of the skills that I've acquired through that program to really come together to help other couples. And so we've coached couples in the area of finances. And so that's been something that's been really special for us to be able to help other couples. And so
it's been cool.
I was going to ask y'all, because I know that y'all have 2 kids, and I was going to ask you about like your college savings plan. I don't know if that's too personal, or like, what are your thoughts on like contributing to like their 529s or their college plans when you have like your own financial goals that you're trying to reach and things like that? Or like, what is your plan for that?
Yeah, so it's a line item kind of in our spending plan. So they have monies that are set aside for them, every month. It's not an astronomical amount, but it's going to help. Yeah. It's going to grow and it's going to help. So that is something that's important to us and that we're doing.
I've heard some conflicting things, well, especially those who are like closer to retirement or a little older, and they're like, well, should I put away for my kid, or
if they're behind?
Yeah, if they're behind, in their savings, should I put away for my kid, or should I just really focus on mine? Luckily, like, we're still fairly young, so we said we definitely want to start contributing to 529 and
right,
something for the kids.
And that's important because when I went to college, I didn't have anything saved for me, and anything would have helped. I mean, a book or something. Like, me
stack
stop.
of ramen noodles, something.
No, I have great parents. I do. But you know, we want to be able to help our children. We're not just going to throw them out to the wolves. You know, that's not what we're planning on doing. And you know, so do you have any particular thoughts on that?
Well, we do save. We plan on we have a different strategy because my husband and I I'm prior service, my husband's active duty. So there'll be like some grants and stuff like that. We do want them to have some skin in the game. However, it's kind of working out to where they probably won't have to pay as long as they go to a local college. So, or like a state school. But we are contributing, and some days I feel like we should probably contribute more. And some days I'm like, if we continue to invest the way that we're doing and, you know, get the real estate thing going, then it'll probably cash flow it.
Right.
So I don't know. I just feel super blessed to be in a situation or a position to where I'm even having this conversation, because I don't think my parents, and like you know, I have amazing parents. I don't think it was even on their radar.
Right.
We always say, like, growing up, we never talked about money. The only thing I heard about money from my parents was, hey, did you transfer X amount of dollars? Yeah, I did. That's it. Like, it was never hey guys, this is how you do money. This is what, you know, how to invest. Nothing like that. And of course, we don't learn it in school, you know.
Yeah.
We're taking some type of class focused on that.
Right.
So yeah, it's great to have the conversation. And like, I'm sure you do this with your kids, but I would like to hear more. But with us, we always just, it's an open conversation. Money is a conversation we have in our house. It's not something we try to, you know, whisper and, you know, so right. Hopefully as our kids grow, they're still young, but as they grow, we'll be able to sit down with them and, you know, really give them some financial literacy.
Right. And they're still young. So we have a 4-year-old daughter and our son is 5. But one thing that we're starting to talk to them about now is that money is earned. And so we're finding ways for them to start to earn money. So like they have a journal, they can write in their journal and make a picture, and they might get, you know, we will give them, you know, monetary, you know, allowance, very small, for them to put into their piggy bank so that they can start to purchase their own things. And so we're hoping to just continue to instill that in them at a young age.
So with your children, do you guys like sit them down, talk money, or how do you guys handle your kids?
Yeah, it's interesting because my oldest, she was the spoiled one. So she got all the things when myself and my husband was working. And so for her, it has been a struggle because she's in middle school now. So she wants all the things, and she has grandparents that buy her everything. And, you know, so that's a whole nother thing. So I said all that to say, my kids right now, I'm working more with them being able to manage their money and to really, I don't want to say live frugally, but for example, like they know what a clearance sticker is. They know I can give them a grocery list, like my daughter's a grocery list, and go to Aldi, they'll get all the right stuff. Or even if we were to go to like a local grocery store, they'll get all the right stuff. They know how to look for the best prices. So it's really important for me, for my kids to know how to manage their money so that when I leave them an inheritance, they know how to not only manage their money, not squander it, but make it grow so that we can have generational wealth. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. And part of that is, you know, making sure that they get a college degree debt-free if that's what they decide to do. That's a whole nother topic. But so yeah, as far as allowance and like commissions, as Dave Ramsey calls it, we do some allowance, but it's like you have to do something like over the top because you live in this house too. Right. So you're going to do your chores because that's just part of being, you know, one team, one fight. But if you want to earn money, like, okay, here's what you can do. You can do something over and beyond. And I've tried giving them allowance, and I would like find money just on the floor, in the washing machine. You know, it's like they didn't work hard enough for it, you know? Right. So once they started working for it, I noticed I was seeing less of it. Yeah. And it also affected the way they made their decisions, like their purchase decisions. Like they would save up for something, and then when it came time to purchase that item, like skates or a toy, because they worked so hard for the money, by the time it was time to buy it, they didn't really want it. So I feel like I'm onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so managing money and then learning how to like live frugally and like bargain shop and things like that. That's our big thing in the house right now.
Those are great life skills.
Yeah.
Life skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have just a couple more questions, Deidre. One, what are your thoughts on paying off debt as opposed to saving for retirement? Or do you feel like it's okay to do one and not the other? You think it's okay to pay off debt, hold off retirement, or do you recommend individuals have a little skin in the game when it comes to saving for retirement, but then also pursue debt? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I feel like my advice is a little different, but I believe that if your company is offering a match, you should definitely do not leave any money on the table. Whatever you do, don't leave any money on the table. I do feel like it depends on the situation because, like, for example, my husband, he's grandfathered into that pension plan. So we didn't have that pressure to, continue to save for retirement because once he does 20 years, he'll get paid like for the rest of his life. So I feel like if you're military, and you're grandfathered into that pension plan, then maybe just focus on paying debt. But if you're not, I do feel like you should have some skin in the game. I don't know. Like, that's just my opinion. I don't feel like anyone should stop contributing to retirement to get out of debt. I just don't think so. I would rather see them work to increase their income than to just like maintain their regular income and not contribute to retirement.
Right. Yeah. That's great advice. And that's pretty much what
I was going to ask you what y'all thought.
Yeah, that is what we say. That at least to contribute, to your match. I think there's some factors that folks have to consider. And one thing that they need to consider is how long is it going to take you to get out of debt? If it's going to take you a year, if it's going to take you 2 years, then maybe. But if it's going to take you 10 years, 15 years, like you don't want to miss out on the growth that your money will experience. And when you put your retirement savings on pause for such a long time, when you finally get around to saving for retirement, you have to save much more. Because of all the time that you've lost. So that's, kind of like the time cost of money. And one thing that I notice is that some people say, well, save 15% of your check. Well, that advice is really based on a person working for 40 years. So if you're saving for 40 years at that 15% savings rate, then you'll have a nice cushion. But if you don't plan to work for 40 years, you may need to save more than 15%. So that's why, I certainly recommend people be cautious before they hear one person's advice and put all their marbles, put everything based on what someone said. And it's so important that we educate ourselves and that we run the numbers and that we figure out, what's best for us, what's best for our unique situation. So, yes.
Absolutely.
So we, as for us, is similar. So I work at a job that offers a pension. So you're in the pension, they're going to take what they need for that pension benefit. And while we were getting out of debt, Marcus, he was contributing to his match because we did not want to leave that money on the table. You can't go back and get it later. So you have to, so I think that's great. And we certainly agree with what you've said. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, like giving money advice, it really depends on what the person wants to do. So that's why it's so important for them to identify what their values are and like what they ultimately want out of their life. And then everything should line up with that. And like you said, 15%, I mean, it really depends on how much their income is. And then what if like they're only contributing 15%, but squandering the rest when they could really accelerate their retirement? Like, yeah, you're absolutely right, Shira.
So, Deidre, what would you tell your 20-year-old self now that you have acquired more knowledge in finance or just life in general? What would you go back and tell the 20-year-old Deidre?
Ooh, that is a good one. Oh, wow. Definitely invest.
Yes.
Stop wasting money on clothes and shoes, like all the things to try to look rich or impress people or whatever they're wearing in the videos. Like that stuff is going to end up at the Goodwill. So invest. I think definitely invest and just to slow down because I was pretty, I don't want to say wild, but like I had no clue when I was 20. Like, what in the world? Like, when I look back on my early 20s, like, what was I doing? Absolutely nothing. I was making a lot of money. I was making like $80,000. To me, for me to be young making that money, I squandered it. And so I would definitely tell myself to save.
Yeah.
Well, I saved, but I didn't invest. So.
Right. Well, what about you, Shire? I never asked you that. What would you tell 20-year-old Shire?
To invest. We were engaged at 20.
Were we?
Yeah.
Well, we were.
So why didn't you no, I'm just
Yeah. What about you, Marcus?
Right. Some of the same, invest. Like I'm seeing the importance of that. Like, man, if I would have just started, doing some of the things that I do now, if I would have started those in my early 20s, I would be, in a
much further,
even better position.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But hindsight is 20/20.
Right.
You get the knowledge when you get it, and you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
Is that true? That's true.
Yeah, I think so. And it's so funny because the flip question to that is, what are you doing today that your older self will thank you for?
Yes.
I like
and
that.
So I think about that often. Like, what am I doing today? Like, I'm taking a nap because I need some rest. Like, I need some self-care today.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
I was going to ask you a question about Black wealth. I think that is something that we should definitely talk about. Like, I'm Black. My husband is Trinidadian. He's like of Indian descent, but he doesn't count. He's Black too.
Right.
But just, I love the way that like your name is Black, Married, and Debt-Free. And I was just wondering, like, what is your message for the Black community? Like, what would you like to see happen as far as like with the wealth and finance in the Black community?
Yeah, so I think we were thinking of a name and we struggled with that, but I don't know. It's just, we're Black. We're like, we Black. You can't hide that. We're married and we're debt-free. And for me, those were all three very strong positive affirmations. Every single one. And, Marcus and I, we're ordinary folks, and, we've been able to accomplish what some folks would consider to be a lot. And if, not to sound cliche, but, if we can do it, you can do it. You most definitely can do it. I was sitting in a WIC office, a few years ago. So, so we're just hoping to just change the narrative and to really highlight the Black family. We need our families to stay together. That's a part of building wealth. It's hard to build it by yourself. You need someone, you need a companion, you need a spouse. And we're just hoping to just be another voice. And we know that there are, other platforms and there's still a lot of work to be done. So we just want to just put positive knowledge out there and to share our story and hopes that it encourages someone.
Yeah, and the exciting thing for me, Deidre, is finding people like yourself.
Yes.
Just since we've been kind of in this space, like we started this organically. Like, I literally had no idea that there were other
people,
millennial African Americans that talk about money. I thought
we thought we were the first
one. Like, how dumb is that, right? But learning, finding yourself. Pennies to Wealth, Rich and Regular, Our Rich Journey, His and Hers. I mean, there's so many like really inspiring stories that we just want to add to that.
Yes.
If we get more people like ourselves, yourself, then we really will change the narrative. And that's the goal. And inspire. Inspire those who are like, we just got married. Look at this couple, or we just want to inspire. I think that's the thing. And Shire came up with that name, and like she said, they're just positive affirmations,
Absolutely.
Black, married, and debt-free. So, that was like the best thing for us.
I actually heard y'all's podcast. I heard y'all on His and Her Money's podcast, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then I found y'all on Instagram, and I was like, follow.
You were on there as well. Your story was on there as well.
I just feel like for the Black community, like, if we would see more positive images of, Black families doing amazing things, aside from like, 2 Chainz and all that, like Cardi B and all this kind of stuff. I mean, no hate or anything like that, but just to show people that you don't have to do all that to be successful, and to show what success really looks like and what it really means to be rich. And I don't know, just empower and uplift and educate. I feel like we don't have enough financial literacy going on.
Right.
So,
yeah,
right.
That's good. Hopefully, our kids' generation will grow up seeing this, and this will be more normal.
Right.
Like you were saying earlier, our parents' generation, they were they came up in an era of survival. It wasn't an era of, invest in all this. They wanted to make it stay out of debt and make it through, and that's kind of, we're coming out of that. I feel like this generation, our generation, is coming out of that. It's like, well, there might be something better than just doing good, let's excel. So hopefully our kids, it's just going to be normal to our children's generation.
Right. And it's kind of funny because I know I see a lot of posts sometimes on Instagram where people are kind of like resentful towards their parents about not teaching them about money. And I'm like, my parents were trying to survive. Like, no one taught them. So should they be mad at their parents, my grandparents, for not teaching them? I don't think so. And I just feel like with, technology, the internet, podcast, there's so much wealth and a wealth of knowledge out there. You just have to tap into. You have to go look for it. And so, I just thought that was interesting when you were talking about, your parents, our parents, and how things have changed. So I can only imagine how our children are going to grow up.
Future looks bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. The generation, like generational wealth, that's what I'm all about right now. Yeah. Not just for me, not wealth for just me and my kids, but for their kids and their kids.
Right.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for, wanting to sit down with us and talk with us. This is cool.
You. Absolutely. This has been so fun. We have to do this more often.
Absolutely.
I mean, money nerds uniting, talking about, I'm so passionate about all this stuff. Like, I love talking about this stuff.
Yes. So Deidre, we thank you for your time. Thank you for all of the great content and all of the positivity that you bring to the world. And can you share where people might be able to find you?
Absolutely. So, and thank you so very much for having me. And I just appreciate y'all so much. All of your feed, your posts, your positivity, all the energy, your creativity, I absolutely love it. And it's so motivating and inspirational. So you can find me on Instagram at Slay This Debt. That's my handle. And also on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Slay This Debt as well. And I just talk about frugal living, getting out of debt, and we're documenting our journey towards financial independence. And so for my viewers, where can they find you?
Well, you can find us on YouTube. You could just type in Black Married and Debt Free, or you can find us on Instagram at BlackMarriedDebtFree. And we also have a Facebook, which is Black Married Debt Free on Facebook as well. So we're everywhere. Just type us in Google and it'll pull up, some of our content. So
yes.
Yeah.
And they also have a podcast, you guys. So make sure that you go check them out. They're awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Deidre. We appreciate it. Thank you for sitting down with us.